Well, hello there. This is Music is a Journey. I'm Peter, and today I'm standing. Yes, that's right. I'm standing because I decided to jump on a thread at the spur of the moment, and there's only so much time to do this. So I was pulling out CDs and pulling out boxes of CDs, and now they're on the floor underneath my feet. And I should probably put them back, but I think I want to put them back after I return the CDs that I took out. So in the meantime, I simply, what's that British expression now? Oh, that's right. I can't be arsed. So this is a thread for my dear friend Nick over in Wales. He has a music channel called Careful with That Axe Eugene. And his channel has not had any new content for quite some time. And there are a couple of reasons for that. First of all, as Nick will tell you, his health condition is doesn't always help the situation. And sometimes it's just very difficult for him to set about making videos. And the other thing is that he has a photography channel with a much higher subscribership. Anyway, he has enough subscribers on his photography channel to make some of us in the vinyl community feel like we got a lot more work to do. Anyway, so he tends to spend more time keeping his subscribers there, pleased, with new photography videos coming out, and he does wonderful macro work of insects as well as a lot of forest detail type things, close-ups and intimate landscapes and so on. So, and occasionally he gets out to the seashore too and does a bit of work out there. But anyway, so Nick's channel, Careful with That Axe Eugene, Nick has been absent for a while, and we could say that there has been a gap, and so he's decided to make a triumphant return to his music channel by starting out with his own thread, which is exactly about gaps between releases. I'm getting sore in one leg from leaning the calf muscle against two of these boxes here, so I am going to shift them a little bit. Just a moment. I'm standing here somewhat astride these stacks of boxes. Anyway, that's now been settled, so I can move on with this here. So yes, so what Nick has done, linked to his video below, by the way, he has decided to do a thread about artists, bands, and so forth who had a long gap between releases. And for his video, he picked 5 particular artists. And as a thread, he's asking us to do kind of the same thing, although I don't think he specifically said we needed to do 5. I think he said more or less choose an artist, although I think we could do a little bit more than just one, where there was a long gap between releases. And if you have both albums, at either end of the gap, that bookend the gap, so to speak, please go ahead and show them both. However, if you have only one of the 2 albums, that is just fine. So I thought, of course, first of all, oh yeah, I'm going to do Uriah Heep, but then Nick did that in his video. And then I thought, oh, I'm going to do Styx and I'm going to do Bloister Cult. And then I thought, no, I'm going to dig about in my collection and try to come up with something that other people are most likely not going to do. So here we go. Gaps. I'm going to do a few of these here. Starting on my list, I have the Northern Pikes. So the Northern Pikes are a rock band from Saskatchewan, Canada, and they started out there somewhere around 82, 83, and they released some EPs and some albums, and had a fair bit of success in Canada. Their biggest album was probably Snow in June, with songs like She Ain't Pretty, She Just Looks That Way, Girl with a Problem, and some others. They have a lot of really good songs. I actually quite enjoy them. And on the topic of the Northern Pikes, there was an album I tried to order from Discogs and it went missing in the mail. Very unfortunate. And I happened to mention this in a video. And Nick, the Nick that we're talking about here, found a used copy in the UK, purchased it for me and sent it to me. So maybe quite appropriate. We start with the Northern Pikes. However, the album I'm going to show is their last album of their original run of releases. This was an album called Neptune. This was released in 1992. And after this, the band released a live album in 93. And then they just decided to call it quits during the 90s. And an interesting thing, I did a video about this too a year or two ago. I think a lot of Canadian bands who started to find success in the early 90s went through a period of adjustment where some of them actually split up up or just simply were inactive for several years before deciding to continue on their band in their own terms, because there was all this pressure, like once you reach a certain level of success in Canada, your next step is to become successful in the United States. And that's quite a hurdle to get over sometimes. So anyway, they did split up, but there was a live release of theirs in 2000. I don't remember if they actually got together to record the live album. Perhaps there was some festival event or there was a reason for them to do it. Or perhaps it was just an older live recording. I don't remember the details now, but at that time, they talked about getting back together again. And so when was it here? 2000, they released an album called Truest Inspiration. And since then, they have released, I think, 3 or 4 more albums. The last one, 2023. So from 1992 to 2000, we had an 8-year gap there for the Northern Pikes. Similar story here is a band called Grapes of Wrath from Kelowna, British Columbia. They, again, a similar story. They formed in 82, 83. They released some albums. Their success in Canada climbed. I think it was their 3rd album called Now and Again, which is a really big hit album for them. And then their 4th album here, what the heck was it called? I'll have to check that because I don't remember. These Days, that's right, These Days. And that came out because I can't read. My eyes are not what they used to be. 1991, they came out with These Days. And then one of the members, Kevin Kane, decided for whatever reason that he was going to go off and do his own thing. And so without him, the band continued under the name of Ginger. Because they felt Grapes of Wrath had to include Kevin Kane in the band. So they released 3 albums under the name of Ginger. However, Kevin Kane got back together with somebody, Hooper. Damn it, I just scribbled this down off the internet moments ago. Tom Hooper, that's right. Tom Hooper from the band got back together with Kevin Kane. And they did an album called Field Trip, which came out in the year 2000. So again, we had about an 8-year gap there. There was a compilation album that came out after that, and as I said, the other remaining members continued on as Ginger, but once Kevin Kane was back in the band, they could be the Grapes of Wrath again. And then one of the other members who had in the intervening years left, I think another Hooper fellow also joined the band since 2010, and so as far as I know, they're still going as the Grapes of Wrath. So, some 8-year gaps there. So now we're going to take a look at a band called Bent Wind, who were from Ontario. I think I might have done a video talking about their story, so I will not go into detail. But they self-released an album in 1969 called Sussex. And this is a kind of, it's a psychedelic rock, heavy psychedelic rock album for 1969. However, the problem was that their recording had a lot of hiss on it. And when they brought it to radio stations asking if the DJs would play the album, the DJs told them, this album has got way too much hiss on it. We're not going to play that. So story goes, they went to the park and they just started throwing their records around like frisbees and basically gave up on it. They still recorded some other songs, I think, in the early 70s, but then after that, basically the band was done for. However, one of the main cats in the band, one of the guys, I forget his name now, but he is it on the back here? Probably not. He had a pawn shop, and he had an album of this album up on the wall in the back of the pawn shop. And one day a customer came in and asked him about it, and he said, those records are fetching $600-700 in record fairs down in the US. So he felt, wow, there's an interest in my band. And so I don't know how many of the original members he was able to gather together again. It might have been at least one of them. Certainly I remember saying that one of them just was not interested anymore. He just kind of chuckled when he was asked to join the band again. So in 1989, they recorded an album and released it as The Fourth Line Is You Will. And I think it was in a conversation. What is the fourth line? My band's name. What's the name of your band? My band's name is Bent Wind. I've never heard of them. You will. All right, that's the fourth line. You will. All right. So yes, 20 years after their initial release, which went absolutely nowhere except flying as a frisbee in a park. Thanks to record collecting and people paying good money for it, they recorded one more album in 1989. 20-year gap there. Now let's see, can we do any better than that? Next one up. Well, it is 20 years as well. So we have a band called Thundermug. Wait a moment. Thundermug, heavy rock band, hard rock, heavy rock band out of Ontario, released 3 albums in the early 70s, and their third album from 1974 was called Ta-Da! And that was also their final album. After this, their singer, Joe DeAngelis, quit the band. And so the remaining 3 members, recorded a 4th album, which was shelved and never released. However, back in the mid-2010s, Axe Records, a label in Canada, below London Records or something like that, reissued the first 3 albums, and that I was able to get those on CD. And as well, this 4th album here was reissued. So I do actually have the 4 original Thundermug albums, but the official final release of the band was in 1974. However, they did putter around a bit and record a new album in 1994. Well, actually, Wikipedia says in the history it says 1994, but in the actual discography on Wikipedia it says 1995. But anyway, that was an album called Who's Running My World, which I don't have. I considered getting it, but I like their early 70s hard, heavy rock. Their 90s stuff just feels more like older guys rock and not as exciting. So anyway, that is Thundermug. And there, again, a 20-year gap. And of course, the 1994 Thundermug, I think, only included 2 of the original members. So that's 4 bands, and I want to mention 2 more. So one of them here behind me, this is a band from Japan called Outer Limits. They are a progressive rock band. They released 4 albums in the 1980s between 1984 and 1989. And I don't know the details, but there was a long gap until they came out with Stromatolite in 2000. Look at this. We have this multiple reflection thing going on. It goes on forever. So anyway, they released an album called Stromatolite in 2017. So there we go, from 1989 to 2017 for Outer Limits from Japan. And finally, I want to mention a band. I don't have any of their stuff because their initial recordings are very difficult to get a hold of, and a lot of the stuff, it's only download only, but it is a band called Northern Haze. They are from Igloolik in Nunavut, Canada. They formed back in, I guess, 83, 84, and they recorded a self-titled album in 1985. And it is thought that this could possibly be the first all-indigenous language rock album recorded in North America ever. And yeah, very much a rock, hard rock, heavy rock inspired album, or not just inspired, it is one. And then, you know, the band went on for a little while, but it's very expensive to record albums in the far north of Canada. So finally, after several years, the band split up, and then there was a long gap, and one of the members died, another member was murdered. Horrible. But finally, in 2012, a compilation of their original album plus some singles that were recorded afterwards was released. And then in 2018, they released a second album called... it's not only that I can't read my own handwriting, it's that I'm trying to read in alphabet here. What did I write? The album should be called Siki Narut, and I have no idea how to pronounce it correctly. I'm very sorry. But I have checked out their music, and I do I did actually try to send the band a message saying, do you have a CD copy? And I think on Discogs, I saw evidence of one CD copy floating around out there, but it seems that it was already sold or something like that. So it might be nearly impossible to get Northern Haze's 2018 album, Sikinarut, on CD. But anyway, I will leave a link to one of their videos below, because if you like that early 70s really heavy rock, kind of Black Sabbath inspired heavy rock sound, it's very interesting, and also entirely sung in Inuktitut, and they're also wearing like animal skins and so on in their performance, and it looks freaking cold where they are. So really cool stuff. Watch that video if you dare, if you're interested. So when was that then? That was 1985 to 2018, a fairly long gap between albums there. So obviously I talk way too much and I'm sweating like a pig sweat. But anyway, that is my contribution to Nick over at Careful with that Axe Eugene in Wales for his video on long gaps between releases. Now, Nick said in his video he would be really chuffed if he got as many as 8 people participating in his thread. So I'm thinking we can do better than that, everybody. Oh, what are you saying? It goes to 11? Does it go to 11? Well, yes, I already thought about that one. I think we can even do one better. Let's make it go to 12. Let's try to get Nick at least 12 video contributions to his thread, so he'll really have something exciting to tell his wife about. And what's that? 13? I like how you think. Yeah, all right, let's go for 13. In fact, let's just keep going. Anyway, everybody, I hope you do join in on this thread. Pick some great artists and send your contributions to Nick at Careful with that Axe Eugene. Once again, his original video is linked in the description below. Thank you for watching today. And see you in the next one. Bye, all.